Hello everyone, welcome back to Tech Pro. Today I will show you how to configure the hardware and software RAID configuration. A RAID is nothing but a redundant array of independent disks. It is a storage solution intended to improve some combination of fault tolerance, storage management and performance. A RAID works as a form of storage virtualization that combines multiple physical disks into one logical volume. In this video, we are going to see multiple types of RAID configuration. First, we will discuss about software RAID configuration in server 2012 and we will see hardware RAID configuration in HPe Gen8 server. First, we need to understand what is software RAID configuration and hardware RAID configuration. The software RAID configuration will support from OS level only. The hardware RAID configuration will support by RAID controller. Let's go to the video. So as you can see, the storage servers are running in VMware 6.5, the second one server. I just click on the storage server. So you can see that guest OS, Microsoft Windows Server 2012, 64-bit. So in the edit configuration, so I will add 3 hard disk to give the demo of RAID configuration. I just add hard disk. So added 3 hard disk. The 3 hard disk space will be remaining same for 5 GB. So overall total space is 15 GB. They are given 5 GB, 3 hard disk will be same. Click on the save. Yes, successfully saved. So we'll try to RDP to the server to configure the disk management. Search the MSDC in start menu, it will show the demo desktop connection. So the server IP is 101, already I have configured. I just try to RDP. So give the username password of administrator. Yes, successfully login. So where need to be searched, the 3 hard disk will be created in the universe. Generally, the disk management is a tool to configure the partitions and managing the disk. You just type the disk management in search bar. Yes, the 3 hard disk it's showing the initializing. So you can see the 3 partition already configured, 3D, CDE. So we have already added 3 hard disk, new hard disk. You can see that the server version 2012 data center. You will see that the 3 hard disk is not initialized. So first we need to initialize the disk. Just right click on the disk, initialize the disk. So select the 345 disk. Yes, the partition type is MBR GPT. Generally the MBR is MBR and GPT is difference. If you have more than 2 TB in single hard disk, you can choose GPT. In below 2 TB, then you can choose MBR. Because the MBR will support only up to 2 TB. So more than 2 TB, you can choose GPT. Yeah, the 3 hard disk is initialized. So first we need to discuss simple volume. Simple volume, this is a regular partition. If the disk type is basic, then create an actual partition. Just to give the space, yeah, okay. The drive letter is G, is default assigned. If you want to change it, drive letter. You can see that the file system NTFS and allocation size, then volume label. So I given the simple volume name. So if you want to change the file system, you can change it, otherwise leave it. Just finish. It's a simple partition. If you want to allocate the existing disk partition, you can choose it. Otherwise you can create a new simple volume. So that's a simple volume. So you can create folders and files inside the partition. So I created one simple folder. I created one more test file. It's a normal partition. Sometimes the data is corrupted or file is corrupted. If you have a backup, then you can restore the data from backup. Otherwise there is no option to restore it. Simple volume is failed. That's a simple volume. If simple volume is failed, or the disk will be corrupted, some rare case the data will be corrupt. So that's why I'm saying if you have a backup, then you can restore the files from directly. So again the server is online, so I can delete the simple partition. So you can see that disk is back. I just right click off or delete the volume completely. So move on the spanned volume. You just right click off any of the partition. The second one is a new spanned volume. The spanned volume is made up for disk space on more than one disk. The data fills up on one drive, then fills up on the next drive. It's getting more full. Two or more drives are basically tabbed together to make a bigger disk. There is no redundancy either for the spanned volume. If a larger disk, you can choose extended spanned by volume, adding free space to another disk. That is a spanned volume. But there is a speed of the disk write performance is very slow compared to stripped volume. So this is not considered to production environment to configure this spanned volume. So minimum 2 hard disk required to configure the spanned volume. I just target D34. Then click on the volume letter, drive letter if you want to change it. Click on the next. File system is default. Interface I leave it alone. Just enter the volume name, span. Finish it. So some information warning is showing that the operation you will select will convert the disk select from basic to dynamic. Yes, it's required. Generally, you configure span to put any of the RAID configuration. The disk must need to be basic to dynamic disk. It will convert. Then only you can configure the RAID configuration. So that generally the dynamic disk for backup configurations, for saving that RAID configuration purpose only. So we cannot save that booting files any of the disk. That's why we can convert the basic to dynamic disk. Just click on and save it. So you can see that all three disks will be converted to from basic to dynamic. Yeah, it's formatting. Yes, successfully configured for spanned volume. You can see that the color indication of purple color. So disk 34 is configured for spanned volume. The two disk 5 and 5 plus 5 10 GB is merged in a single disk. You can see the 10 GB in my computer. So if you can add it multiple disk into single volume, so you can choose spanned volume. So for example, I have 50 GB, 10 plus 5 disk. So if I configure that spanned volume, so my computer will show that 50 GB in single volume. I just created one spanned folder, then create a test file. Just example I give create the folder and test file. The problem is a span volume. The file will save any one of the disk. Okay, so in this case I delete one disk, one partition, that is disk 3 or 4, or disk will be going to the failed state or some corrupted issue. So in this case the other disk will also failed. That's the problem of span volume. So that time you cannot retrieve the data. So I will give you the demo. That I will delete one of the partition. See, I selected disk 4. I click the offline. So you can see that disk 3 also failed. So both disk is failed state. So you cannot see that another partition. So your data will be lost. So the disk will be failed temporarily. In that time you can repair it the disk or online mode. That is a temporary solution, but it's a disk will be failed permanently. You cannot retrieve the data. Only the option is if you have a backup, then you can restore it. See that the fourth disk will be online. The third hard disk will be online. If any one of the disk will be failed, so remaining rest of the disk will be failed. That's a problem of span volume. To overcome this problem, we can create some stripped volume. But the span volume is very slow of data read-write operation. So I delete both disks. I just deleted 3 and 4. Yeah, again the 3 hard disk will be unallocated space. So we configure that next one is stripped volume. Stripped volume is data is stripped across multiple hard drives, so that every other segment of data is stacked between the drives for maximum performance. There is no redundancy because of no mirror and no parity of this stripped volume. But the difference between the span and stripped volume is almost same. Stripped volume same because any one of the disk is failed or corrupted state, so other one is also failed. So that time the data will be lost, so we cannot retrieve the data. The only option is if you have a backup, then you can restore it. But the difference is stripped and span. Span is very low, while accessing the data, the read-write operation very slow compared to stripped. But stripped is higher performance. That is the read-write operation is very fast compared to span volume. But the minimum requirement is 2 hard disk will be requirement. So select the 3, 4. I just give the 3 and 4. The default file system will be same. So I don't touch anything. Just give the volume label. Type it as stripped. So again it will show that a message convert to basic dynamics. Yes, click on the save, so that the basic the basic disk will convert to dynamic disk. Stripped is similar to write 0. It's the same. So you can see that green color state while configuring that formatting the disk. The stripped is write 0. It offers great performance, but both in read-write operation is very fast. There is no overhead caused by parity control. So all the storage capacity is there is overhead. The technology is to implement. The requirement is minimum to our disk, but excellent performance because of the blocks are stripped right. But this concept don't use for any critical system because of no fault tolerance, right? Write 0. If any one drive failed, all the data in write 0 array are lost. It should not be used for any production environment. So you can see that the 2 disk will be configured. This one of the disk is failed. See, you can see that disk 3 also failed. So your data will be lost. The partition is gone. To overcome this problem, we can move to the RAID 1. Sometime the data will be temporarily lost or any redundancy issue or latency issue. So that time we can fix the issue temporarily, then back to the disk is online. That time your data is safe. Otherwise the data is the disk will be failed permanently. So during that time your data is also gone. So that's why we can move to the RAID 1. I just deleted that stripped volume. So another one is new mirrored volume, that is a RAID 1. RAID 1 is nothing but is a mirrored volume. It gives the excellent read and write operation that is compatible to that of a single drive. In this option, like if you spend a 2 disk, for example 5 GB, we can spend a 2 disk, then we can use only 5 GB, that is one disk. So another one disk will be mirrored volume. In this case, the one of the disk is failed or data do not have rebuild, we have to copy the data to replacement drive. So RAID 1 is very simple technology to use that similar production environment, that is a smaller production environment. Generally we can configure RAID 1 is for mirrored volume for OS disk only, so not data disk. Yeah, it will go it will show the message like convert to basic from dynamic. So you can see that brown color while formatting the file. Okay, the formatting is generally the OS will recognize as the file system. So when the disk will be formatting, the OS will recognize the disk, right, using that file system. That's why the formatting. The RAID 1 is main advantage is good performance because of no stripping, no parity. The excellent redundancy as block as mirrored. If any one of the disk will be failure, so immediately you can access the data without downtime. So another one is redundancy, right? That's the concept of RAID 1. So the disadvantage of RAID 1 is that effective storage capacity only half of the total drive capacity because all data get written twice. That's the disadvantage of RAID 1. You can see that one of the disk will be failed. After disk will be failed permanently or temporarily, then you can access the data without downtime. You can see that RAID 0. Sorry, I created name is RAID 0, but it's a RAID 1. Still you can access the data without any downtime or any fluctuation because so another disk will be redundancy. So even though one of the disk will be failure, so immediately the other disk will be redundancy. That's a RAID 1 concept. So again the disk is fixed temporarily, the disk will be online means then RAID 1 is resyncing the data. See, the data is not redundant. So the disk is offline again, still the data will be there. So in this case you can right click of the disk, reactivate the volume because the disk will be temporarily failed means once the disk will be back to the online. So you just click on the disk, just click on the right click, I reactivate the volume. Otherwise the disk will be permanently failed, then you can add the one more unallocated space into add mirror volume. So you can see that resyncing the data. See that the resyncing 73% is going on, is completed and healthy. So when the disk will be healthy state, so your write configuration is safe and configuration is good. So I just deleted write down volumes. See that failed, I just reacted the volume. Once reacted the volume, so it will resync from the primary disk. I just deleted all things. The next one is RAID 5. So RAID 5 is only for is only works on server edition, but it can strip across 3 or more hard drive and include the parity strip to prevent data loss if a drive was to fail. So RAID 5 is generally minimum requirement is minimum 3 hard disk and maximum number of hard disk. So it identifies the volume, stores the data in stripped or 3 or more day disk. It provides a way recovering the data if the parity part of the data is lost. The main advantage is read data transaction very fast, while write the data transaction are somewhat slower because due to the parity the disk to be calculated right. If the drive is failed, you still access the data even while the failed drive is being replaced. Then storage controllers rebuild the data. So the minimum 3 hard disk will be required to configure the RAID 5. So again give the volume label. Finish. Yes, it will ask the convert the disk from basic to dynamic. The problem is the disadvantage of RAID 5 is the drive failures have an effect on throughput, although this is still accessible. This is a complex technology. If one of the disk is an array using 4 TB disk fails and is replaced, the restoring the data may take a very longer or depending on the load on the array at the speed of the controller. If the another disk goes to bad during that time, the data also lost forever. So that is I can explain one more time. The 3 hard disk, right? So 3 hard disk means 15 GB. So 2 hard disk space only we can configure in my computer. The 15 GB, right? So another one disk will be fault tolerance. So with the data we can create any one of the disk, like you can, the A folder is saved in disk 3 and B folder saved in disk 4, C folder disk 5 means sometimes the disk the files and the folders are saved in randomly. So if any one of the disk will be failed, so using that parity we can restore the data from parity. That's the concept of RAID 5. The problem is you can spend multiple disk, but you can using that single volume RAID. So 15 GB RAID, you can see that. I will show you that my computer. See that 10 GB. So out of 3 we can use 2 disk space. 15 GB out of 10 GB we can use it. That's a space because of 1 TB. Another disk will be fault tolerance. So using the distributed parity, we can retrieve the data from parity level. That's the main advantage of RAID 5 configuration. So again I will explain one more time. Yeah, if one of the disk is failed out of 3, you can still access the data without any downtime. See that. The failed disk is temporarily, you can repair the volume or reactivate the volume, and temporarily the disk will be failed. That time you can just select the online, just right click the reactivate the volume, so that the resyncing will happen. That is if you saved after disk will be failed, you can save it any volume, any files and folders, it will be resyncing. Otherwise the disk will be failed permanently. That time you can replace the hard disk, then you can insert the new hard disk, so that and the data resyncing will be happen again. Yes, still the folder files are there. Again I click on offline. See that error message failed redundancy. So that's all our software configuration, but we don't need to configure software configuration in production environment because this is one OS supported. So when your OS is corrupted or some booting issue, so all the RAID configuration will gone. That's why we prefer almost always auto RAID configuration the best compared to the software RAID configuration. So we don't recommend software RAID configuration. Just I give the demo only. So I will show you that auto RAID configuration. It's okay. I will show you that one. So I will remove all the disk configured in the storage server. I just select that edit settings, remove all the disk. Okay, I added one more disk because sometime the hard disk failed right permanently. That time you can add the new unallocated space into RAID 5 configuration. That means when your disk is failed permanently, so during that time you can replace the hard drive, then insert the new hard drive. The new hard drive will be adding to the RAID 5 configuration, then resyncing data process will be happen. That's what I'm showing, that adding one more disk. So yes, there is a repairing volume is resyncing. So you can see that the resyncing process. So when you're adding new disk or when you existing the disk will be failed state. So when you see that healthy status, then you can your RAID configuration is fine. So that's all RAID software RAID configuration. So I can delete all the disk from disk management as well as under VMware side. So you can see that reactivate the disk means when you reactivating, then disk will be progressing resyncing. So the RAID 5 is indicating that color light green in software RAID configuration. You can easily assume in that light green is a RAID 5, brown is a RAID 1, span is purple color. So I just delete all the disk from disk management. One more thing is very important in RAID 5. Minimum 3 hard disk will be required. If any one of the disk will be failed, then it's okay. So we can restore the data from the parity level. Sometime the two disk will be failure, right, in RAID configuration. That time the total RAID file is collapsed. That's the main drawback. To overcome this problem, that's when we can move the RAID 6, but we don't see the RAID 6 configuration. That's its auto RAID configuration. By simply telling that RAID 0 is stripping, RAID 1 is mirroring, RAID 5 is stripping with the parity, RAID 6 stripping with the double parity, RAID 10 is combining mirroring and stripping. But in this case we can see only RAID 0, 1, 5 simple and span. RAID 6, 10 we don't see that because that one is not supported by OS level. So I can delete all the disk from VMware end. So you can see that all the disk is deleted in from disk management. Now we will go to the second hardware RAID configuration for HPe Generation 8 server. I log in the ILO. So click on the remote console from HDMI integrated console. It's loading, console opening. Yeah, console is opened. So I will reboot the server from ILO itself. So ILO having some issues, so I can reboot the server from VMware end. So after rebooted, it's loading while processing all the hardware configurations. Let's wait 2 more minutes so that I will show you that hardware configuration. Okay, I wrongly mentioned that option ILO. It's loading ILO configuration. So you can see that HP Smart Array P420i controller. That's a auto RAID controller. It's a refixable. So when you configure that auto RAID configuration from your auto relator, so it can be refixable. Sometimes the auto controller is failed, right? So during that time you can check with them any HP vendor or RAID Dell controller, any whatever your auto controller. Then you can check with them easily fix a refixable, so that your RAID controller will be safe. Then RAID confusion also is did not solve. It's not an issue. So I just wrongly mentioned that option is loading to the ILO 4 version. Let's again reboot in a server, then go to the RAID controller. Yeah, now it's showing that RAID controller RAID configuration menu. Just click on the F8 option for Generation 8 server only. If you have a Generation 9 10 server HP, then you can choose the intelligent provisioning, then you can configure that RAID configuration. So I am using a Generation 8 server, so I can choose that F8 option. So you can see that I have 6 hard disk. Each disk will be 600 GB. So I have already configured RAID 0. So previously we discussed about RAID 0 as stripping. So there is no redundancy. So 6 GB. So 6 hard disk will be merged into a single hard disk. That is 600 into 5. So overall 3 TB is showing. So if you want to create logical volume, then you can create, but currently I don't need to, because I have already configured and installed the operating system. So if I delete the disk min, the OS will corrupt. I just showing how to configure. So in this case, if you add a new disk min, so then it will show that. Otherwise, you can delete the logical volume, then you can create logical. When you select the create logical volume, it will show if you want RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 10, RAID 0 plus 1 or 1 plus 0. So that is the option to configure hardware RAID configuration. This is the way to configure hardware and software RAID configuration. So you can see a lot of options: create logical, n number, select boot volume. So RAID 10 is combining RAID 10 is a combination of RAID 0 and 1, that is a stripping and mirroring. So that's all, friends. This is a way to configure hardware and software RAID configuration. Hope this video is useful for you. If you like this video, please subscribe, share, comments. Thank you so much, guys.